All right, let's get right into it. We're going to uncover the real science-backed reason why some people get so effortlessly fluent in a new language while the rest of us get stuck. And here's a hint, it has nothing to do with talent or having a good memory. It's all about understanding one fundamental secret. Does this sound familiar? I mean, you've spent years in classrooms, right? You could probably pass a grammar test in your sleep. You know tons of vocabulary words. But the second you're in a real conversation, it's like a switch flips and it all just stalls. The words just won't come out right. And that's the feeling, isn't it? You end up sounding stiff, a little robotic, kind of like you're reading from a script. You're just trying to have a normal, relaxed chat, maybe share a joke, but your own language feels more like a barrier than a bridge to connection. Well, there's actually a name for this feeling. We can call it the grammar burden. It's that little voice in your head, you know the one, that's constantly double-checking every rule before you dare to speak. It's what keeps you careful and correct, but it's also the very thing that stops you from ever feeling comfortable and just natural. So, how do we get past this? What's the secret? Well, the answer comes from a really powerful idea from the linguist Dr. Stephen Krashen. And trust me, this one idea, it changes everything. See, Dr. Krashen pointed out that we have two completely separate ways of getting good at a language. On one hand, you've got language learning, and on the other, you have language acquisition. Now, they might sound kind of similar, but they are worlds apart. And knowing the difference, that's the key. Okay, so language learning, this is what we all think of when we think of studying. It's the conscious stuff, the deliberate effort. We're talking memorizing verb charts, making flashcards for vocabulary, analyzing sentence diagrams, all that classic classroom work. But then there's language acquisition, and this is totally different. It's subconscious. It's how you picked up your first language as a kid. You weren't studying grammar when you were 3 years old, right? You were just listening, trying to communicate, and soaking it all in. You just developed a feel for what sounds right. And here it is. This is the big one. Krashen's research shows that real, spontaneous, natural-sounding fluency comes only from acquisition. So what about all that stuff we learned? Well, its only job is to act like a slow, clumsy editor in our brain. That's the grammar burden we were talking about. It's constantly interrupting the natural flow to check the rules. This visual makes it super clear. This is the true path to speaking fluently. It's a natural cycle, right? You get input, you can understand. That input fuels your subconscious acquisition, and that acquisition is what lets you produce natural speech. Then that conversation gives you even more input. And notice what's missing? That conscious learning of grammar rules has no part in this process of creating spontaneous conversation. Okay, so if acquisition is the secret ingredient, how do we get more of it? How do we switch off that learning brain and turn on the acquisition brain? Well, it turns out there's a recipe, and it's actually pretty simple. Krashen's theory boils it all down to just two essential things. First, you need what he calls comprehensible input. That just means you're hearing or reading things that you can mostly understand. And second, you need a low effective filter. That's just a fancy way of saying you need to be relaxed in a low-stress environment where you're not terrified of making a mistake. And here's the proof. This data is fascinating. It basically shows that when students are already getting real-world comprehensible input, from being on a playground or taking other classes in that language, piling on more formal grammar lessons has pretty much no effect. The real-world acquisition is just way, way more powerful. And this gets to that second condition, the whole low anxiety thing. What happens when you're constantly corrected? Your anxiety shoots up. You start focusing on rules, not on actually communicating. So it's no surprise that research confirms that correcting someone's errors is a terrible way to help them acquire a language. It just makes that clumsy editor in their brain even stronger. So, what does this perfect environment for language acquisition actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at a fantastic example that puts all these ideas into practice. It's called the English table. And the first thing you need to know is what it is not. It is not a course, it's not a lesson, there's no teacher, no textbook, no tests. It is simply a social community for professionals to get together and, you guessed it, just talk. So when you focus on acquisition like this, you directly solve all the problems we started with. That grammar burden, it just melts away. You start speaking with more confidence and ease. You sound natural because you're in a natural setting. And the best part, you're building real relationships and gaining fluency without even feeling like you're studying. And the process itself is designed to be incredibly simple and low stress. You just join a WhatsApp group, you vote on topics that actually interest you, and then you show up and chat. That's it. And look at that last point. It's the most important one. Mistakes don't matter. Connection does. That's how you create that perfect, low anxiety environment. So let's wrap all this up. What's the big takeaway from all this research and this real world example? What does it mean for you? It's really this simple. The path to fluency isn't about studying harder. It's about finding ways to live the language, not just learn it. It's about putting yourself in low pressure, social situations where you can just focus on the message, not the mistakes. You know, Krashen himself said it perfectly. Trying to fix speaking problems with more grammar books is like trying to fix a leaky faucet with a hammer. It just doesn't work. The real cure is real language acquisition, and that can only happen when you get enough input that you actually understand. So that leaves us with one final thought, and it goes way beyond language. Think about the next skill you want to master, anything at all. Are you going to approach it by just memorizing rules from a textbook? Or are you going to find a way to immerse yourself, to get real-world input, and to truly, deeply acquire it?